Hello, and thank you for joining the State of Events podcast. My name is Sonia Alcazar Collier, owner and operator of Cinch Events and Productions. I'm joined today by Joy Ekuta, owner of HostaWambe, and we both are trusting that all is well in your communities as well as with your loved ones during this challenging time. A little bit about our group here. So we're contributing to this as a team of event professionals who have obviously been incredibly impacted by this health crisis. And we've seen day by day people that have concerns ranging from what am I going to do about the wedding that I had planned? What about the graduation celebration that I've been preparing for? I'm a producer. I had a fundraiser. I had a gala. We've heard so many stories, and even from fellow event professionals and business owners and entrepreneurs about how their businesses have been significantly impacted. And so in response, we got together as fellow event professionals and created this 3-part podcast series that's designed to resource, empower, and support you. We'll be addressing topics that range from techniques on how to restructure the event you had planned, how to have a virtual event or produce relevant digital content. We'll also discuss resources for small business owners, service providers such as caterers or florists, and even fellow event producers. So now we're going to transition into the topic that we've been addressing, which is the best rescheduling and restructuring practices for my event. And we're actually going to focus in today on virtually transforming your event. We have Joy Ekuta from HostaWambe. Welcome, Joy. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Sonia.
Awesome. Joy, can you tell us a little bit about what is HostaWambe? What do you do?
Yeah, of course. So again, everybody, my name is Joy Ekuta, and I founded a company called HostaWambe. And so HostaWambe is a marketplace for people who want to host parties to be able to find their next event or party planner. And the reason that it's named HostaWambe, that's a big question everybody asks, is that I'm Nigerian, and in Yoruba, Owambe usually refers to a party with food, music, and dancing. And so my philosophy is that everybody should be able to host Owambe.
So great. So awesome. In that same vein, with the types of events that you're involved with, we're obviously having to rethink and redo everything that we ever thought of as an event producer, or even just as a client who has, a wedding coming up or a celebratory event going up. So what types of events should I consider in this season with what we're experiencing? Which ones should I consider doing online, making a virtual event, or go ahead and just putting the pause button on and revisiting this to have in person once all of our lockdowns are lifted?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a great question, and it's something that is very much at top of mind for everyone as they're practicing healthy social distancing. And so when it comes to what types of events people should continue to do in person versus which ones they should do virtually, I think it's important to consider what is the level of interaction that's involved for your events. And so if you have an event such as a conference or a training, those are events where you typically have one or a few distinct people speaking, and then they're speaking to a larger group. And so those ones are pretty easy to replicate online as long as you have the correct tooling to it. What makes it a little bit harder is that when you start to break into other events such as celebrations and wedding, those are a little bit harder to replicate what's happening in person, because those rely on a heavy one-on-one interaction versus the group mindset. And so in terms of events that are good to do right now, I think, again, any conferences, onboarding, trainings, smaller celebrations, those should still happen because time doesn't end for those. With larger events such as weddings or graduations or things that require a lot of people and a lot of moving parts, those are ones that you want to consider what in-between methods can you do right now versus waiting to the in-person. And of course, with all of these events, you have to start thinking about what is the etiquette around those events. And so what is the clothing and the attire that you need to wear? Do you need to dress up, or can you be more casually within your space, your room environment? Is it set up so that you minimize the amount of noise that's there? Do you make sure to mute when speaking? Is it audience based? Is it back and forth? So you just want to start thinking about those different components that you need to piece together as you start to break down the different parts of your event and figure out how to bring that online.
So great. Joey, we were talking a little bit about before this podcast aired, we were talking a little bit about how people have been really getting really creative, right, on how to have some of these more celebratory events, considering the health crisis that's going on. Are you aware of any ways that people have sort of been, innovative and creative to still have people be a part of their event virtually?
Absolutely. This is something I've been keeping a close eye on just because my platform specifically focuses on the celebration space right now. So there's a lot of life events that continue to happen that people aren't able to celebrate in person. So biggest example that I've seen so far has been birthday parties. And so Zoom has been a great tool that people have hopped on, gathered a bunch of friends and family together to either sing happy birthday together or at least say kind words to one another. That being said, besides the virtual, there's been a lot of innovation coming out in terms of what kind of events that people can do. So one event that I saw online that it was just amazing the way that it was put on was a gender reveal party. And so for this party, they put a box outside of the parents' household, and then they had friends and family drive by with two boxes. There was a pink one and there was a blue one. If guests thought that the baby was going to be a girl, then they would throw pink items into the pink box. And if they thought it was going to be a boy, then they'd throw blue items into the blue box. And I thought that was such a great way of allowing people to still practice healthy social distancing while still being able to actively participate in that event.
That's so awesome. I can't imagine now that somebody set that standard, what people are going to be doing.
Yes.
Trying to get some, and it's interesting because, depending on where you live, your family's not necessarily in the same state. They don't know how to celebrate with you during this time. And so these innovative ways of just sending stuff to your family so that they can watch and feel like they're there in spirit is so awesome. These kind of innovative ideas, we kind of rely on our event planners or our event decorators and designers to come up with this. What are some of the places that I can go and find good planners?
Yeah, I think I love that question. One, because I'm going to plug HostaWambe for a second. We are a platform, yes. So we want to bring that together so we make it easy for people to be able to find the planners that they need. But outside of that, right now, there's a lot of places that people can go to find event planners. For larger events, there's platforms like Happily that support that. There's MPI as an organization, as well as ILEA. So these are some of the larger organizations for planners, with people who have been certified and who have been trained in the field. And then you have more specialized platforms. So for weddings, biggest ones, Wedding Wire and The Knot are great places to find your next wedding planner. And smaller events, people have started to use things like Thumbtack, Yelp, Facebook, Instagram, hashtag EventProf is very helpful in finding a lot of event professionals, but just finding different ways where are those party planners and how can you seek them out? Those are a few of the examples, but any one of us on these podcasts, I think, we're trying to form different partnerships with planners as well. So even just seeking out who we follow, who we match, and what we're looking for, that's also a helpful resource to just see like who is in the field.
Right. For those listeners who aren't familiar with the things that you have mentioned, you said Happily. Can you spell that so that people know how exactly to search that, as well as what is MPI an acronym for?
Right, of course. So Happily is HAPPILY, and then MPI is an acronym for the Meeting Professionals International. So again, organization of different event and meeting planners.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. So lastly, once I found my planner, then what? Let's say that I am, a client or maybe even a producer who has never worked in the context of having someone sort of take over my event for me. We were talking a little bit in another episode with Zoe about utilizing the professionals, particularly in this season, as we tend to be on the most cutting edge as we can to provide information and resources. And so once I found a planner, what do I do? And then how should I talk pricing during a time when it's so unexpected and uncertain? Are there any best practices that I can use?
Right. And I think that's a great question. And I'll reiterate it again here. We're all learning and we're all adapting during this time. So once you've actually identified a planner, whether it was one of through one of those platforms or through your own means, the best thing that you can do is communicate with your planners. So as event planners, we're here in a space in that we want to provide you with the best event experience that you can have. And so that means talking with your event planner about how many people do you expect to be attending that event. That will help them really start to separate out what are the different platforms and what are the options to help support that event. And then what does your event attendees look like? So are they based locally? So are you able to do something in person like that gender reveal party, or are you able to do something where people can still practice social distancing while still bringing together people for an event? Or are they based geographically? Like, is there something that you can do with recorded videos, or can you think about different rooms to, again, replicate that one-on-one interaction? Being very clear about what is the most important parts of your event will help your event planner bring out the best options for you. And then thinking about what activities do you want there to be? So do you want it to be showcase one person? Do you want to bring in music and other performers into the space? Do you want it to be more of a social vibe? Anything that you can do to help your event planner dream up and provide the resources that are helpful to you, that will create the best experience, especially as we're going through this time with virtual events.
So great. I think there's always a fear to even move forward during a time like this with planning anything, but we want to be able to celebrate each other, and we want to be able to participate, and we want to be able to, continue with life. Life doesn't necessarily have to stop, considering what we're experiencing. And so you've led such a wealth of knowledge here in this discussion. So I really, really appreciate that. And to any of our listeners who want to find you or find out how to get in touch with any planners that may come out of HostaWambe, can you give us your handles, your websites? How do we get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So HostaWambe is my tag everywhere. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, email, and that's spelled HostoWambe. So HostaWambe.com is also where you can find the platform, and you can start perusing through things and follow me anywhere on social as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joy. We appreciate your participation in this podcast. Excited to be able to collaborate and partner with you. And if anybody is seeking more information on HostaWambe, feel free to check her out, her website, and any of her social outlets. And anyone on these podcasts who you're interested in finding more information about, you can find at a Cinch event. And I wanted to just restate also that we have been covering the best rescheduling and restructuring practices for your event. We look forward to you guys listening in on our next episode, in which we will address some marketing and communication components. Thank you so much for tuning in. Talk to you guys soon.